So it's good to have you all here, because I know that you're all here because you're interested in better health, yeah? And we live in an amazing body that has been designed with an inbuilt ability to heal itself. That's the good news. But the problem is, many people are not aware of the basic conditions that the body requires for healing. And as we go through this series this week, we'll be looking at those basic conditions for healing. We started right in the most serious last night, is where we looked at cancer and how we've even seen cancer conquered. That's the good news. And if someone comes to our retreat with cancer, we usually say to them, we have seen 3 outcomes. One outcome is the last days are made more comfortable. Another outcome is, everyone's awake now? Another outcome can be 6 months, turns into 6 years. And the outcome we all love the most is that we've seen people recover from cancer. So I think no matter what stage you're at, to implement the natural remedies is always a plus. And I've seen some people come to our retreat and I look at their history, I look at them, I look at their age, I think they've got a pretty good chance of recovery. And then I hear 6 months later that they've passed. And then I've seen other people and I think, I think it will be very difficult for them to get a turnaround. And then I hear a year later they've just had the all clear that they have no cancer. So I can never predict. But what I do promise is that we're going to give it our best shot. We're going to do all we can to show you what you can do to bring about the best healing conditions in the body. It depends on so many things. It depends on the person's emotional state. It can depend on their history, and their history, you know, looking at it, it can be physical, emotional, spiritual, mental. There are so many factors that make us who we are. And that's why I believe we all should be our own doctors, because only we know what we've been through, only we know how our body responds or reacts to different things that come into the body. So what we like to teach you is those basic conditions. There's always a little bit of fine-tuning. And I talked to a lady recently and she said, but I drink 2 litres of water a day. So I investigated a little bit more, and she drinks a whole litre at once. I mean, what would happen if you watered a plant a whole litre at once? Just all runs out the bottom. You drink a whole litre of water, guess what? It's soon going to run out the bottom. You're going to have to find a bathroom very quickly. But if you put the water in little by little by little, you can get a lot of water into that plant, can't you? Same with the body, little by little by little. I've just been given the thumbs up, so we can officially start. And I'd like to begin with a word of prayer, if you don't mind bowing your heads. Father in heaven, thank you so much for bringing us here. It is no accident that we are each here tonight. We pray that you'll come close, teach us and guide us. Give me words to speak, is my prayer in the name of Jesus. Amen. I always like to go to the creator of this amazing body that we've been given, because he alone knows us. In fact, it says he knows how many hairs are on our head. So the first presentation tonight is on detox. And our liver is our main organ of detoxification. And the liver is called the project manager, because everything that comes into the body goes first to the liver. Whether it be food, whether it be chemicals, whether it be any substance. And the liver assesses what this is, and then it determines where it is to go. Let's have a look at the liver. The liver lives under our right rib, And our liver is the only organ in the body that has the ability to regrow. It's a recoverable organ. And as we go through looking at it, you'll understand why God designed it to be a recoverable organ. In fact, they can even do a liver transplant with a small piece of liver, and it will regrow. So this morning I'm going to show you how you can look after your liver. And did I say this morning? I meant this evening. See, in Australia it's this morning, so forgive me. We're going to have a look at how the liver works. The Proverbs 14 verse 6 says, "Knowledge is easy to him that understands." When you understand how the liver works, then it is not hard to determine the conditions that the liver needs to be working well. All through our life, when environmental poisons come into our body, it goes first to the liver. And the liver has a look at it. A toxic substance, it'll wrap it up in fat and store it. But if it's not so toxic and the liver assesses that it can break it down to a state that can be easily eliminated out of the body, it will. But before I show you what the liver does with our environmental poisons, I first of all want to show you what the liver does with the food that we eat. And never in the history of mankind have human beings eaten so many carbohydrates. So let's do a carbohydrate assessment. A carbohydrate, probably 50 years ago, they used to call them starches, and in some circles they're still called starches today. So a very common starch is bread, a very common starch is cereal. I'm going to say cakes, etc., because if I do all the list of cakes, biscuits, we call them cookies. In Australia, we call them biscuits. So when we in Australia see a sign in America that says biscuit and gravy, we think these Americans are strange people. But I understand your biscuit is like a scone or a roll or something like that. Okay, so I'm going to say cakes, etc., because if I go into things like pasties and pies and biscuits and cakes and donuts and croissants, it's going to be a very big list. So we'll just say cakes, etc., looking at carbohydrates, pasta, and also pizza. The Europeans have introduced Australians and Americans to these foods. Rice. I'm a fifth generation of Scottish descent. I don't think I had rice till I was about 18. Certainly didn't have pasta or pizza. And potatoes. As coming from Scotland, we ate a lot of potatoes, and I think people worldwide eat a lot of potatoes. And then last and certainly least in nutritive value is the pure crystallised acid that's extracted from the sugarcane plant. Tomorrow we're going to be looking at diabetes, and tomorrow we're going to look at how this high carbohydrate diet has contributed to the diabetes we're seeing today. But what I want to look at tonight specifically is what the liver does with this. All these foods break down in the gastrointestinal tract to a singular structure called glucose. And glucose is the main fuel used by every cell in the body. So the glucose is now coming into the blood and then goes straight through the main highway, we call it the portal vein, straight to the liver. Remember, everything that comes into the body goes first to the liver. And then the liver determines where that glucose goes. And the first place that it will send it is to the cell. And when it goes into the cell, we looked at this last night, we looked at the little energy cycles. It goes through a 20-step pathway. And this gives us 2 units of energy. Then it goes into an 8-step pathway. And that 8-step pathway gives us 36 units of energy. And the difference is oxygen. No oxygen up here. No oxygen, only 2 units. Lots of oxygen, 36 units of energy. But that's the first place that the glucose is sent, is to the cell. We've still got a lot of glucose left over. So now the liver stores it. And it stores it like a little bunch of grapes, and they're little molecules of glucose. And that's how come you had the energy to exercise, which I'm sure everyone is doing, so that there's a class every afternoon. You exercise. It's all sitting in your muscle cells. So the second place that the liver will send the glucose is to be stored as glycogen. Tomorrow night we'll be looking at this in relationship to diabetes. But on a high carbohydrate, we've still got glucose left over. Only so much can be stored as glycogen. And so now the body stores it in the most amazing fuel deposit in the body, which is fat cells. And what's happening on this high carbohydrate diet, and bigger, have you noticed? In Australia, 62% of Australians are either overweight or obese on this high carbohydrate diet. So this is the third place that the liver sends the glucose that comes in. And as I mentioned to you, those fat stores are also fat-soluble toxins are stored. Fat-soluble toxins. Whenever environmental poisons come into the body, and the liver looks at it and says, this one's a nasty one, wrap him up in fat and store him. So I'm going to show you what happens when these people, they go through a 2-day juice fast. Every 2 hours, 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and 4 o'clock. So we serve 8 juices in a day. And the reason we serve juices and no solid food is because we want to put the body into detox. And when you're not receiving solid food, the body starts to break down the fat stores. And when the body starts to break down the fat stores, it starts to release some of the environmental poisons. And that's why when someone goes through a detox, often their breath is not very nice, the perspiration's not very nice, what they're leaving in the toilet has a bit of a strong flavour. Flavour's the right word, scent. I say to our guests, rejoice, where was it before it came out? You're on a detox. And so that's why we do 2 days juicing. And you couldn't eat in a day what we put in those juices. And the main juice that we serve is 80% carrot. This is called the vegetarian juice, or milk. 80% carrot, that's 10% celery, and 10% apple. This is a nice mix, and we find the diabetics go very well on this in this mix. Doesn't do blood sugar level spikes. So that's our 8 o'clock juice. I think the 10 o'clock might add a bit of beetroot, you call it beets. Some juices we add a few greens, some juices we add a bit more celery. So we do a little bit of a variation, but that's our main juice.
And another juice is what kind of there?
Pardon?
Another juice, 8, 10 o'clock, whatever.
Yeah, variations on the theme. Sometimes add ginger, sometimes beet, variations on the theme. And so when the person stops eating solid foods, the body goes into a form of detox for a few reasons. One is that it needs more fuel, and we're not giving enough, so it starts to break down the fat stores. And the other is that 1,200 calories is required to digest a meal. So when your body energy is not digesting, it basically looks around for something to do. It's like what happens when you're on holidays at home. I don't know about you, but when I'm on holidays at home, I go to the areas in my house that have been bugging me, and I've just been waiting for a bit of extra time to get there. Every day you sweep the floor, you wash the dishes, you make the bed, you wash the clothes. There's your maintenance. And then there's that corner over there that you're going to get to. Maybe it's a pile of books. That's what your body does when you detox. It doesn't have to put all that in digestion, so it's looking around for something to do. And it'll go to the area of greatest need. Your body knows what to do. It's like cleaning out old cupboards. But before the body can regenerate or restore, it must clean house. You would never paint an old dirty wall in an old house. You clean it first. And that's why this is often called a cleanse as well as a detox. Now, as the fat-soluble toxins are released, they cannot be released in a fat-soluble state. They must be broken down to a water-soluble state. And the liver does this in 3 stages. So phase 1 begins probably within about 10 hours after the last meal. No food's coming, so detox starts. And as the body breaks down the environmental poisons, it does it in 3 phases. So phase 1, the liver takes this fat-soluble toxin and it breaks it down to a metabolite. Metabolite simply means the first stage of metabolism or breakdown. Remember, the liver is converting this to a water-soluble state, and it does it in 3 stages. Phase 1 is the first stage, where the liver takes this fat-soluble toxin and breaks it down to a metabolite. Now, this metabolite is highly volatile. This metabolite creates a lot of free radicals. And free radicals damage the tissues. Because if you remember your atoms from school days, they're an electron short. And as an electron short, they are damaging, and then they grab an electron from another atom and it becomes a free radical. And so it goes. This metabolite is sometimes 100 times more toxic than it originally was. And you might look at this and say, well, what's the liver doing? It's just created something worse than the original fat-soluble toxin. Well, it's a process. It can be like what happens when you're going to clean out the kitchen cupboards. The kitchen looks 100 times messier than when you began. When my son put a new clutch in his car, the garage looked 100 times messier than when he began. You're going to clean out the garden shed. It was 100 times messier than when you began. It's a process. And for your body to cope with this process, it has certain needs. And these needs are antioxidants. So the needs in phase 1 are antioxidants. What are antioxidants? Antioxidants are free radical scavengers. Meaning they mop up the free radicals. So the most potent antioxidants are beta-carotene, and beta-carotene are found in all your orange and your green coloured vegetables. Every juice that we serve our guests is either green or orange or red, high in antioxidants. And every second juice we serve a green barley supplement. Those greens very high in antioxidants. And I mentioned yesterday that chlorophyll is a powerful blood and tissue cleanser. Pardon? Pardon? Beta-carotene is found in all your green and orange coloured vegetables. Vitamin C. Vitamin C is not ascorbic acid. Vitamin C, when it's found in fruits and vegetables, it's ascorbic acid, but with... Is my microphone working? No. Not. So in fruits and vegetables, beta-carotene is found with, ascorbic acid, that's better. Ascorbic acid is found with bioflavonoids. So if you buy a vitamin C, make sure it's ascorbic acid with bioflavonoids. There's your whole C. Ascorbic acid is like getting an envelope in the mail with nothing in it. And I think it's fairly well acknowledged now that when you use vitamin C, make sure it's ascorbic acid with bioflavonoids. That's probably the most famous antioxidant. Now I mentioned that a free radical is an atom missing an electron. What antioxidants have is lots of extra electrons, and they give it to the atoms which balance out the free radicals. Vitamin E is a fat-soluble vitamin. So when a guest is detoxing at our retreat on juices every 2 hours, how are they getting their vitamin E? Well, every second juice we give a green barley supplement, but the other juice we give a protein powder. And that protein powder we serve, it's usually a pea protein, or it will be hemp protein. We can get some organic soy protein powders. And in a minute you will discover why. But when we serve that, we serve it with almond or organic soy milk and a little bit of coconut milk. So there's your vitamin E. Within 36 hours of starting a detox program, phase 2 kicks in. So our guests arrive Sunday, they have lunch with us. We serve a thin soup on Sunday night, and then Monday, Tuesday are juicing days. So by the time they wake up Tuesday morning, phase 2 kicked in. So within 36 hours of beginning of the detox program, with no solid food, phase 2 kicks in. In phase 2, the liver takes this toxic metabolite and it joins it together with amino acids. So the union of this toxic metabolite joined with amino acids, that creates the water-soluble state. Now you will remember that I said most environmental poisons are stored in the body in a fat-soluble state. And the liver cannot release it in a fat-soluble state. It must break it down to a water-soluble state. And it does this in the 3 phases. So by Tuesday morning, the second day of the detox, our guests have gone into phase 2 of the liver detox. And in phase 2, it takes this highly toxic metabolite and joins it together with amino acids. And that union creates the water-soluble state. So the needs that phase 2 has is protein. And this explains why we give our guests a protein drink. So remember I said 5 juices a day? 8, 10, 12, 2 and 4. On Monday, the 8, the 12 and the 4 are served with a green barley. High antioxidant. But the 10 and the 2 are served with the protein drink. But on Tuesday, we changed that. Because on Tuesday, our guests have gone into phase 2 of the liver detox. And so 8, 12 and 4, we serve a protein drink. Whereas the 10 and the 2, we bring that back just to the green barley, because Monday, the needs for antioxidants are greater because they're in phase 1. And the need for protein's not that great yet, because we haven't got down to phase 2. Whereas Tuesday, our guests have gone into phase 2. So the liver's requirements for amino acid is greater on the Tuesday because they've gone into phase 2. Sometimes we will get a guest detoxing majorly Monday evening. And where I was first brought, or this was first brought to my attention, was probably 16 years ago now. And I had the guests say to me, Barbara, we've got a young man who's not doing well. He wants to talk to you. This young man was 40, fairly fit, but he had quite a few allergies. And it was Tuesday, and it was 2 o'clock. And I said, what's the matter, Anton? And he said, I'm feeling terrible. He said, I've got diarrhea, I'm shaking. He said, it's as if my body is crying out for protein. I said, say no more. What will the best health professional do to you? They will listen to you. Is that right? They will listen. So I went and I made up a protein drink and I gave it to him. And I saw him half an hour later. He said, thank you. Now, people have said to me, how did he know he needed protein? I said, I don't know. That's what his body said to him. And this started my brain thinking, why did Anton need protein? But I'm very thankful that in the next couple of years, when I studied nutrition in detail, every single module, and there were 10 modules, we studied the 3 phases of the liver detox. And I realized, aha, his body was requiring amino acids. Phase 3. Phase 3 happens in conjunction with phase 2. And in phase 3, the liver takes the water-soluble state and it releases it out via your sweat glands. And it releases these water-soluble toxins out via your colon. It releases these water-soluble toxins out via your urine. These are our organs of elimination. And so we encourage our guests to be drinking a lot of water. In fact, we encourage them to try and drink at least 8 glasses of water a day. So we encourage our guests that as soon as they wake up in the morning, have half a glass of water. Go to the bathroom, have another half glass of water. Come to the area where our guests meet, ready for exercise, and there'll be another glass of water. And it'll be a warm lemon water with some aloe in it. Had some aloe soaking in it at night. So we wake up at 6, exercise starts at 6:30. So by 6:30, our guests have had a quarter of their daily intake of water. That's easy. That's the best way to do it, little by little. And we encourage them to have a glass of water between every juice. Because by the end of the day, in fact in the afternoon, we start our steam sauna, where our guests will be sitting in a steam sauna and they'll be getting very hot and they'll be perspiring profusely. Did you know that when your skin is given the right conditions, up to 70% can be eliminated via the skin? That's impressive. That's why I think steam sauna is an important part of the detox program. And on Tuesday, I say to our guests, your most important steam bath is tonight. Because tonight, you'll be eliminating more environmental poisons than any other time of the week. Because Tuesday, they go into phase 2 of the liver detox in conjunction with phase 3. And so sweating out those environmental poisons makes it easier on the other organs of elimination. This information on the 3 phase of the liver detox has only been known since, I think it's about the year 2000. It's important information, isn't it? And I just thank God we've been given a liver that has the ability to regenerate, revive, and it has the ability to detoxify us from environmental poisons. In fact, the latest figures are we are exposed to 100,000 new environmental poisons every year. Ooh. And you have no say over anywhere but your castle, your house. So please begin to investigate what's in your laundry detergent. What's in your shampoo? What's in your conditioner? Your toothpaste? What are you washing your body with? Your clothes? What are your clothes made out of? Are your clothes made out of cotton? If it's made out of cotton, always wash it. It's one of the most sprayed crops. And everywhere I stay, I'm looking for the clotheslines. You people in America don't seem to have clotheslines. I was in Alabama a few years ago, and I said to the lady, "Where's your clothesline?" She said, "Oh, my grandmother used to use one of them." You know what the sun does? It detoxifies, purifies. And we need to do that with our clothes because the cotton has a lot of chemicals in it. So we need to wash it and put it on the clothesline and allow the sun to purify and detoxify it. And there are fabrics today made out of hemp, out of bamboo. It's called viscose. In fact, there are 3 fabrics you may not be familiar are natural fibre because they're made out of wood. Viscose, which is bamboo, rayon, and modal. MODAL. When I was in Idaho in 2021, I was in a shop like Trader Joe's and they had a whole stand of these clothes. The brand is called Booty. And they had all underwear and leggings and singlets, you call them undershirts, all made out of bamboo. So I bought a whole lot, I bought petticoats, underwear. And when I went home and I'm taking the packaging off and I read the fine details and it said, made in Australia. So please read your labels. And this is one area where environmental poisons are slipping into people through the fabrics that are touching especially their skin. Now the guys, we call them blokes, that's what we say for a man, is a bloke. They don't really have a problem because usually their underpants are cotton, their undershirts are cotton, they wear jeans, they wear cotton shirts, but it's the ladies who like the pretty things. So pretty underwears and sleepwear, they're often made out of terrible plastic or chemical fabrics. So there's three main ones: polyester, nylon and acrylic. Polyester, nylon and acrylic are basically chemical fabrics. And if your underwear, the clothes that are touching you are made out of these fabrics, then when you warm up at all and the pores open, those chemicals are coming in. So you might say, Barbara, I'm going to have to throw half my wardrobe out. Well, we have these wonderful shops in Australia called thrift stores. Yes, you can get a lot of cheap clothing there. But just take your magnifying glass and read the labels. But when you get these fabrics, they're soft and silky, and you think, how could it be wood? Well, they use a chemical to soften the wood. Mic's not working again.
It keeps going in and out.
Keeps going in and out.
I think when you get close to the water, it goes out a little bit.
So, put my deep voice on again. No. So when you buy these fabrics, which I'm sure you're going to, now that you've discovered how important it is,
Your speaker's not working.
what can you do? Speak louder, I'm a little lady with a little voice. If I go deeper, I can go. So they must be washed and put in the sun for a day. And that will detoxify from the chemicals that are used to make these fabrics. So please be mindful of that. What we're looking at is trying to get down our fat-soluble toxin environmental poisons. We are exposed to so many. And you may not have say over a lot of the ones you're exposed to, but we have say over what we wash our clothes with, what we wash our hair with, what we wear on our bodies. And soon I'm going to be talking about hormones. They are also causing disruption in the hormones. And that's even scarier. So be careful, especially with children, with the clothes that you put on children. And some of those pretty clothes that the little girls love to wear, and there might be some dresses they have, but just as long as what's touching their skin. Because we've got a lot of sickness in children today. More sickness than we have ever had, and these are all contributing factors. So our guests have a steam sauna every afternoon where they do a big sweat in the little hut, and then they go and dive in the mountain stream and then back into the hut, and then they get hot again, And they do this 3 times. And by the 3rd steam, their body temperature is up to 40 at Celsius. I think we're looking at near 100. Is that right? Something like that. I think that's what you have. So we're getting them pretty hot. And fevers have been produced in bodies for centuries, all through Europe, to help conquer disease. That high heat is the best stimulator for your immune system, your white blood cells. Okay, we're going to try again. Okay, testing 1, 2, 3. Is that better? So we're talking about the steam sauna. And the steam sauna and its ability to get the body temperature up. When you raise body temperature, blood circulation increases, the ability to throw off waste increases, and that's one of the reasons. And so that's one of the reasons why the steam sauna is such an important part of the steam bath. But have you ever tasted your perspiration? It's very salty. So even though you are losing a lot of environmental poisons with the big sweat, you are also losing minerals. So I mentioned that we give 5 juices a day to our guests. 8, 10, 12, 2 and 4. And at 6:30 at night, we serve a thin soup. This is a lot of vegetables cooked in a lot of water for about 4 hours. We even put sticky nettle in there because sticky nettle is incredibly high in minerals. And then we strain that and then we put in that Celtic salt. Celtic salt contains 82 minerals. Himalayan salt is probably the second best. That contains 75 minerals. So our guests drink 1 or 2 cups of that at night. And there's a few reasons for the broth. But one of the main reasons is to replace the minerals they lost in the big sweat. And so the liver, it does its work internally in converting the fat-soluble toxins to a water-soluble state. But the next one, or the next role, is to make sure that those environmental poisons are being released out of the body. And so we do the steam sauna every afternoon to boost the body's ability to throw off waste via the skin. We also encourage our guests to drink adequate water. You can't hydrate your body half an hour before the steam bath. So starting early in the morning, little by little by little, all through the day, so that by the time in the afternoon steam sauna happens, your body's well hydrated. Also having a little crystal of salt, about the size of a sesame seed, before you start every glass of water. Because you want a nice mineral balance in your body, and you want good hydration, ready for the big sweat every afternoon, where the body's wastes are coming out. We have many guests come who are coming off addictions. Probably the most common addiction is to caffeine. Another very common addiction is cigarettes. Sometimes we get people coming off methamphetamines, marijuana, heroin, alcohol. We get all sorts of people coming to detox. And the people are surprised at the lack of suffering And I believe that the lack of suffering is due to the 2 days of juices, stimulating the liver. You can see by what I've shown you that we nutritionally support the liver to be able to effectively detoxify you. So I think all of these come together so that you're throwing off the waste at such a great rate that everyone's awake again? So that as that waste is coming out, it greatly reduces the side effects that many people would have coming off those environmental poisons. One German lady sat in front of me at the end of the week and she punched the table hard. She said, "Why didn't I suffer?" I was getting ready for a blast, and in her German way, she was basically very happy. Because she didn't suffer. I said, well, I think it's a bit of everything. I think it's the steam, I think it's the juices. So we've been doing this for 25 years now, and we still do this program because it works so well. What happens if you fast longer? What happens if you only water fast? Well, I think you will see by what I've shown you this evening that your liver needs to be nutritionally supported to effectively detoxify you. Because if you weren't getting those antioxidants, then you would certainly suffer. Because that toxic metabolite can make you quite sick. But these antioxidants help to mop up the free radicals. And if you weren't having protein, what's going to mop up those metabolites? What does happen is the liver starts to break down. And what the research is showing is within 48 hours of starting a detox, if you're not supplying adequate protein, you can suffer even 25% liver function loss. So you could do a 10-day water fast 100 years ago. Because 100 years ago, we were not exposed to the environmental poisons that we are today. They're in everything. 50 years ago, if you went to buy clothes, they were all made out of cotton, or wool, or linen. But you go into many popular shops today. So we've got a shop in Australia called Cotton On. It's really hard to find cotton in that shop. Isn't that crazy? I think they get everyone in because it's called Cotton On. But that's why you've got to read your labels. Got to read your labels. You've got to know what these labels mean. Sometimes they're a little bit deceptive. That's probably not a surprise in the advertising. So it's important to know. I want to know what's going in my body. I want to know what my clothes are made of. I want to know what my foot is touching. I bought these great shoes from Germany. They're called Echo. They're all leather. And in Germany, they've got Birkenstocks. I think I've seen a few people wearing Birkenstocks. Your feet are on suede, sitting on cork. The biggest pores in the whole of our body are on the soles of our feet. So these are areas that many people haven't given much thought to. When I was in Germany, I was there for a month. Kneipp, K-N-I-P-P-E. Kneipp is from Dr. Kneipp from the mid-1800s. He was a water cure man. In fact, in the 1800s, nurses used to study Kneipp's water cures. Did you know that? If you were a nurse 100 years ago, you studied hydrotherapy, water therapy. I think on Friday night we're going to have a little look at water therapy. And I went on the barefoot Kneipp walk. It was a 4.5 kilometre walk. And I walked on beautiful soft grass. and I walked through mud and sand and water. Wonderful for the feet, because the biggest pores on the whole of our body are on the soles of our feet. So be mindful of the fibre that your socks are made out of. So we are exposed to so many environmental poisons today that our, only 50 years ago that they were not. So it's being mindful of everything that comes into our body to try and lessen the environmental poison load that is in our body. What happens if someone does a 10-day water fast? Well, what I have found is if a person has lived on a mountaintop and had no exposure to chemicals, they might get away with it. But if someone has had a lot of exposure to environmental poisons, so we get some sick people who've been farmers, spraying a lot of chemicals, hairdressers who've been exposed to a lot of chemicals in the dyes and in the perming solutions. We get a lot of sick cleaners, because a lot of cleaning products today are harsh chemicals. We had a guy do our program who sprays houses for white ants, cockroaches, things like that. I said, is it true that a lot of women can buy in the supermarket substances that it's illegal for you to use? He said yes. Because there's strict rules now on what they are using in the homes. But some of the things in the supermarket are far more toxic. Did you know one of the worst is bleach? Bleach will kill mould, but it'll feed fungus. In other words, all bleach does is feed the next crop of mould. So what do you use on mould? You use white vinegar. White vinegar will kill it, and it won't kill you. And it would also not encourage the next crop of mould. But you've also got to find out why the mould is there, because there should be no mould in our house. Is it a leaking tap? Is it not enough fresh air, yeah?
What does bleach kill that's bad?
Bleach kills humans, that's true. Bleach kills mould, but it feeds fungus. So you might kill the bleach, but then you'll find it's going to come back. But you've got to find out why it's there. If you don't assess the cause, you will never have a cure. So kill it with white vinegar. I know in Australia you can buy 2-litre bottles of white vinegar in the cleaning department. And if your grandson happens to get into your cleaning cupboard and drinks white vinegar, he won't die. But bleach is going to make him pretty sick. Yeah? What would you use to clean the bathroom? White vinegar. And sodium bicarbonate powder. And if you want something really strong, mix them together. You'll get a little reaction there. And also, elbow grease. Is that what you call it? Scrubbing. And if you clean your bathroom very well every week, it never ever gets to the point where you need anything really strong. But there should not be mould there. You've got to find out the cause of it, if it is there. My daughter told me, she read in the newspaper 10 years ago about a lady who cleaned her bathroom, very mouldy bathroom, all the windows were shut, and she scrubbed it with mould, and they found her dead. Because bleach and mould, you put them together, you create an incredibly toxic mix. Now, I guess a lot of people clean mould with bleach, but I think it's just a little bit and the windows are open, whereas this lady, it was a lot and the windows were shut. So it was an extreme situation, but it is an illustration to show how deadly that is. But you can get, like in Trader Joe's, places like that, you can get a lot of healthy alternatives to cleaning products. But, you know, the cheapest is just sodium bicarbonate powder and white vinegar, yes? Yeah, baking powder, sodium bicarbonate's the same thing. But we buy 20 kilos of sodium bicarbonate powder for $20. So you can buy it quite cheaply. So one part of detoxification is stimulating the liver, feeding the liver everything that it needs to be able to effectively detoxify. But the other part is stimulating the organs of elimination. Colon must move every day. Dr. Kellogg said 3 intakes of food a day should equal 3 evacuations a day. So it's important to make sure it's moving every day. Often just drinking adequate water will help. Exercise exercises the colon. And when we look at natural treatments on Friday night, I'll be showing you how to make a castor oil compress. Castor oil compress on the colon can also help the colon to move. Drinking adequate water is usually enough to stimulate the kidneys to throw off the waste. When you're dehydrated, the urine gets very strong, and that can be very damaging for the little nephrons in the kidneys. So it's important to ensure that your organs of elimination are eliminating the waste. There are some herbs that specifically give a boost to the liver. And you might have heard the old saying, bitter to the mouth, sweet to the stomach, bitter to the mouth, sweet to the liver. So your liver herbs. Lemon. The lemon is one of the best tonics for the liver. That's why on all our salad dressings, we always have lemon. You can put lemon on your fruit salad. You can put lemon in your water. And milk thistle. It's also called St. Mary's thistle. It's a very bitter herb, but it's one of the best. Liver herbs and dandelion, these are both very bitter herbs. I've just come from the hills in Germany where there's dandelion everywhere. I saw dandelion leaves this long. They love it in that moist area under the forest. So you can use the leaf, you can use the root, you can get roasted dandelion, which is like a coffee alternative, but it's an excellent liver booster. This is not as well known, gentian. Gentian is also a very bitter herb. And the sweet bitter is ginger. It's considered a bitter, but it's probably more a sweet bitter. So these are herbs that can boost liver function, even to the ability to break up even blockages in the liver. And castor oil compresses over the liver can also stimulate healing in the liver. Remember, your liver is your organ or it's your project manager. It's the largest internal organ, and it's the only organ in the body that has the ability to regenerate or regrow. So please look after your liver. How do you look after your liver? You reduce as much as possible environmental poisons going in there. You might choose to do a fast once a week or once a month. You might do 1 day, you might do 2 days. Or you might do what many people are doing today, is the intermittent fasting. You've heard of the intermittent fasting, it's very popular, 5-2. The 5-2 diet. 5-2 diet is 5 days of 2,500 calorie a day, and I think 2 days of 500 calories a day, so 2 days of very light food. Or what's becoming the most popular today is time-restricted eating. Time-restricted eating really came out of this 5-2 diet, intermittent fasting. So what's time-restricted eating? It's called TRE, time-restricted eating, and it is the most popular way of eating today. And if you Google that, you'll find a whole lot of experts talking about time-restricted eating. I've got a book in my library at home by Dr. Michael Mosley. And Dr. Michael Mosley wrote a book called Fast Diet. And he talks about the 5-2 diet, talks about the intermittent fasting, and the time-restricted eating. So what's time-restricted eating? It's eating twice in a 24-hour period, 6 hours apart. And what they are finding is this is having a dramatic effect on weight loss, dramatic effect on even brain function, helping with depression, dramatic effect on diabetes. Now, what are diabetics been told? How have they been told to eat in the last 50 years? Every couple of hours? Don't you have a little laugh when the authorities go, sorry, we had it wrong? When are they going to make up their mind? That's why I say you're the doctor, and if it works, do it. And we'll be going on our journey through the gut, I think Thursday. And as we go on our journey through the gut and we look at stomach function, you will discover that the stomach requires 3.5 to 4 hours to digest food. And then it loves a 1-hour break. So giving 5 to 6 hours between a meal ensures that stomach is happy. Now, if breakfast is watermelon, you're not going to be able to go 5 or 6 hours, are you? So you need a balanced. And tomorrow when we look at diabetes, we'll be defining food a little bit more. So time-restricted eating is eating twice in a 24-hour period, 6 hours apart. Some people choose to do a 9 o'clock breakfast and a 3 o'clock main meal. That doesn't work if the children are at school or the guys are at work. Some people have to have breakfast at 6 o'clock in the morning to get to work, and then they'll be wanting something to eat at 12 o'clock, and then by 6 o'clock in the evening, they're very, very hungry. And maybe they'll need a bowl of soup or something like that. So you have to do what works for you. My boys are all built like this, a lot bigger than their mother, which is not hard. And they start work early, they have lunch about midday, and they have something to eat at night. So it all depends on you, your size, your weight, your height, etc. So whatever works. But this time-restricted eating is being hailed today as a superior way to do it. And at our retreat, this is what we do. We give breakfast 7:30 in the morning, we give lunch at 1:30, and then in the evening the guests just have the thin soup. And I have people say to me, when I heard that there was going to be no tea, well, you call it supper, yeah? They were worried. But by the end of the week they said, actually I'm sleeping better, I've lost weight, etc., etc. So it works well. And the Bible says in 1 Thessalonians 5:21, prove all things and hold fast to that which is good. In other words, try it, prove it, and see what works for you. I'm going to have a break now. It's a little bit early for the break, but my next 2 lectures are linked together.